Our average member works out, resistance training wise, 15 minutes twice a week. That's it. And of that 15 minutes, you're only actually doing work for about 6 or 7 of that. So you're generating maximal force the entire movement, which is why we can accomplish in 90 seconds what would take you an hour in a traditional gym, because you're getting maximal load throughout the entire range of motion. And VO2 max is really, all the most recent literature suggests that it is one of the most tightly correlated things that we can track to your overall longevity. It's not that weights don't work. It's that they're inherently unsafe and they are wildly inefficient. We're really targeting people who are saying, I know this health stuff is important. I don't really know exactly what to do, but I know I don't have a lot of time and I know I don't want to get injured. So I want a really safe, effective, and efficient workout.
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to Talkin St. I'm your host, Ryan Bogden. I'm so excited you're here as we're getting really close to 100 episodes. We're going to have to do something really, really cool, but I'm so grateful we wouldn't be able to do this without you watching and recommending guests and filling out a form and just loving St. Pete. So thank you for everyone in supporting the show. I also want to let you know the show is sponsored by yours truly, Bogden Homes at Keller Williams St. Pete. So if you need anything real estate in the greater Tampa Bay area, do not hesitate. I don't care if you just need a new landscaper. Reach out to us. We have all the contacts around the city, all great people, and we can help you with any of your needs there. And now on to our awesome guest. I'm super excited. I got Jason DeBruler. He is the founder of Biohack Studios and CEO of ARX. Is it just ARX?
Just ARX?
Just ARX. And he's going to tell us all of what that is and what biohacking means. But he's a great local business owner here in St. Pete, and we're really, really, really grateful to have him on the show.
I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And we won't tell people that I just butchered your name because we edited that out and redid it. As you just said, like, it's people's names. I just told Jason as he was coming on that names are the hardest part of podcasting. Yours isn't even that bad. It's not bad at all, actually. But some people's are wild. And once we get over that hump, we're good. And here we are.
Fantastic.
Yes. I don't know that I need too many of my notes because I'm just excited about this space. So, Jason, you've been in St. Pete for quite some time.
Yeah.
Before it was rocking and rolling the way it's looking now. And you decided to open Biohack Studios on Central. One, before we go into like your backstory, for those that like they're just tuned in, what the heck is biohacking?
Biohacking is the concept of trying to get the most out of your biology, so bio as in biology, and hacking it is kind of an old term that's just a shortcut, if you will. Like, how do you get the best bang for your buck in terms of time? So Biohack Studios was born out of my desire to bring some of the best fitness and longevity technology to St. Pete. We're the only location that has these various technologies like ARX, adaptive resistance training machines, and we'll talk more about that stuff, but it's computer-driven and motorized resistance. So there's no weights involved. It's inherently much, much safer, much more effective, and much more efficient. And that's kind of the theme of everything we do, from Vasper to red light therapy, biocharger, cold tub. We have all kinds of just what we call next generation fitness. It's for people who really care about their time and getting a good, high quality workout that moves the needle, that gets results, and doing that in a really efficient amount of time. So that was always the genesis, and how we got there was a long journey of all the things that don't exist, both in St. Pete and really anywhere in Greater Tampa Bay and most of the country. We can talk about some of the popular things in fitness and why they fall short for most people, and that was really at the genesis of starting something brand new. We're really focused on more of a longevity side of things, aging well, not just long, but well. And thankfully now the word's getting out there with Dr. Peter Attia and a lot of the influencers now that talk about the importance of resistance training and bone mineral density, controlling blood sugar, insulin response, all those types of things. That's what we're really focused on.
Well, hats off to you because I'm excited dive into all these different modalities. And one, St. Pete's such a place that cares about their fitness.
Sure.
I think we just being in Florida in general, where we're not wearing so many baggy clothing, people care about their physique. And then we're in a health conscious place where people really care about these things. You were early to the scene and opening Biohack Studios because St. Pete wasn't quite what it is now in that time. But what a cool thing that you're doing. It's such a cool place because, I mean, people are a part of some kind of fitness, whether it's yoga, group fitness, whether they're lifting on their own or they're doing 7-8, like Sunrise Run Crew or the run clubs or Pilates, spin. And then you're bringing a different element to this fitness world of like, hey, you're a busy professional. Why don't you tell us about your model of biohack, and then we'll get into the different things of why they matter.
Sure. Yeah, we're really focused on people who are really busy. I mean, who isn't these days, right? Whether it's a career, whether it's you've got kids or just a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. Usually over the age, I tend to look at fitness in different, I guess, chunks of people, which is in your 20s, it's mostly about, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's vanity, right? You want to look good. You want to go to the beach. You want to, feel good in a bathing suit, and you are willing to put a lot of time into that because it's sort of social hour as well, right? You've got the time. You're at the gym 2 hours, 3, 4, or 5 nights a week. That was me most of my 20s. That's most people that I know. In your 30s, you start getting a little more career focused, and all of a sudden that time that used to didn't seem like a big deal in your 20s, all of a sudden starts seeming more scarce, starts getting more difficult. And then whether it's 30s or 40s for most people, if kids are a part of the equation, that totally changes the game in terms of scheduling and just, soccer games and whatever, that it really changes the amount of time most people are willing to put into their fitness. And so when we really break it up, we're really targeting people who are saying, I know this health stuff is important. I don't really know exactly what to do, but I know I don't have a lot of time, and I know I don't want to get injured. So I want a really safe, effective, and efficient workout. And so our entire thing is catered around that. And maybe it's easiest to talk about what we're not. And so, if you look at the greater fitness landscape, you just listed a bunch of them. I'll break them into a couple categories, which is group activities of some kind. Yoga, Pilates, whether it's group fitness for resistance training or for cardio. You've got your Orange Theories and you've got your F45s and CrossFit and all that type of stuff. Those are really community driven, and people who like group fitness, that's what they gravitate towards. I was never that person. So I always went to the big box gyms, which is like your 24/7 Globo, Planet Fitness, Anytime Fitness, all of those. And what I liked about it was, as a busy professional, you swipe your access, you go in, you didn't have the rigidity of the schedules. It wasn't like, whenever I would try to go to classes before, it's like, well, a meeting ran late, now I missed it and whatever. And so that's really difficult when you have a really tight schedule. And so what I always wanted, unfortunately, when you walk into one of those facilities, you never know when somebody's sitting over on the chest press machine for 45 minutes making Instagram videos and whatever, and you can't do what you wanted to do that day. So I was always frustrated by the availability of the equipment was tough, but also the lack of what I call next generation fitness. So there was just, most gyms look the same today that they did 50 years ago. Hasn't really changed, right? You got your weight stack over here, you got some machines over here, a couple mats, to get down, do some ab work or whatever. It really hasn't changed. And that entire business model, unfortunately, is built on go get 1,000 members and hope no more than 200 of them show up every month because you don't have enough equipment for everybody to use. Nobody cancels because it's $20, $30, $40 a month, and they go, I'll use it next month, and they never do. And the cycle just keeps going. So you've got the group fitness. What I was trying to do was solve my frustrations on the availability of high-end equipment, the most effective stuff out there that I would see at conferences, anti-aging, longevity conferences, that didn't exist here in St. Pete and most of Tampa Bay. And then I wanted to pair that with some way to guarantee, how do I know when I go, I can do exactly what I want to do? And nobody's going to be in my way. It's not going to, if I book for 15 minutes, is it ready for me? And so that's really what makes Biohack Studios so interesting is that our members love it because we have an app and you schedule it. So if you want to do ARX at 2 o'clock and some red lights at 2:15 and a biocharger at 2:30, when you walk through the door, that grants you access. It's a fully self-service model. So our members love the autonomy of being able to come and go when they want. It's 24/7. They book when they want, and they know that nobody will be on that equipment when they get there. So that's the massive differentiator. So if you love group fitness and that's just your thing, there's plenty of things out there for you, right? We're catering to people who want a little more privacy and who want to control their schedule. Some days I pop in, I'm literally there 15 minutes. The beauty of how advanced our technology is, our average member works out, resistance training wise, 15 minutes twice a week. That's it. And of that 15 minutes, you're only actually doing work for about 6 or 7 of that. So it's intense, but it's really short. And people love that. Like in and out, get it done, gain a lot of muscle, gain a lot of bone, and get back to your life rather than hours and hours in the gym slaving away and not getting the results you want. So that's where it was born.
Yeah, really cool. And the concept makes a lot of sense because like you said, there's so many different niches of people in their fitness journey, and it looks different for everyone, and you're finding a gap in that.
Yep.
So biohacking. Let's start with the machine and then get into some of the other things, because I think that's, for me, when people have asked, and I said, well, we'll just wait till Jason comes on and we'll have him explain it. So what is ARX? How did you find them? And why do I only need to use it for a few minutes twice a week? And what is that comparable to if I were going to a gym, and how much time, like in contrast?
Sure. Yep. I guess we'll start with what equipment do we carry? So ARX is kind of the crown jewel. I consider that the foundation of what we do. But we also carry Vasper, red light therapy, biocharger, and cold tubs, and AI Carol bikes. So those 6 modalities are kind of what we do. But it all starts with ARX because I'm of the belief that resistance training is the single most important thing you can do for your longevity, for your health. We could talk about statistics all day long in terms of the impact on, for example, most people are going to lose over the age of 50. Nobody likes to think about what's it going to be like when I'm 80. But you have to start preparing for that at 40 and 50. Peter Attia, very famous medical influencer, he talks a lot about the marginal decade. So the last 10 years of life, what do you want those to look like, both cognitively and physically? And most people are going to lose 1% to 2% of their muscle mass every year over the age of 50. So by the time you get to 70, a lot of people have lost upwards of 30% of the muscle that they used to just be walking around with without having to do much for it. That muscle starts deteriorating if you don't train. Now, it's completely preventable, but the average person, Biohack Studios was really born thinking about my parents. My parents are in their early 70s now. They're in their mid to late 60s when I started the company. And what I was really thinking was, we know all the benefits of resistance training. We'll talk about that a little in a minute here. But knowing it is different than, well, where are they going to go do it? I'm not going to send my folks to, what are they going to do? Learn Olympic lifting at CrossFit at 65? That's not going to be a safe way for them to do resistance training unless you want to spend $750 to $1,000 or more a month on personal training to have somebody right there with you. That's a pretty small market, the people that can afford that. And so there wasn't really anything in the market that they were going to go wander around Planet Fitness and they don't know how the equipment works and there's nobody there to really show them. So I was designing this around the idea of how do you bring the best technology and deliver it to people who don't really have a way to access it. So resistance training, what makes ARX so special is people have been getting fit for hundreds and hundreds of years just lifting stuff. Go back 1,000 years, you're picking up rocks and throwing them around. It's not that weights don't work. It's that they're inherently unsafe and they are wildly inefficient. And what I mean by that, it's the inefficiency part that is really at the core of why people don't get the results that they want, because the amount of load that you need to carry. So take a chest press, for example, one of the most basic exercises, right? What's the most difficult part of a chest press? Getting it off your chest, right? So you're loading the weight to match whatever, let's say you want to do 10 reps. You're going to load as much weight as you can do, lift off your chest, and lower it back down 10 times. Well, the The struggle is most people are 2 to 4 times stronger on what's called the negative or the eccentric phase. And we don't have to get all nerdy on the technical stuff, but basically the lowering back to your chest part, if you were to lay down with 2 spotters on each end, and you put a really unsafe amount of weight on there, and they were there to could read your mind, so to speak, right? And so they would help you get it off your chest, and then you would lower it yourself. That would be the most efficient way to use traditional weights, because out here, furthest away from me, I can handle 350, 375 pounds, an insane amount of weight, but I can't even come close to getting that off my chest. It would break me down here. So what ARX does is it says, well, forget gravity as the limitation. It's you versus a motor, and it's being driven by a computer. So you're generating maximal force the entire movement, which is why we can accomplish in 90 seconds what would take you an hour in a traditional gym, because you're getting maximal load throughout the entire range of motion. When you're doing a normal chest press, because you're underloaded the entire time, you have to make up for it with volume. So there's only 2 ways to build muscle: tons of volume or intensity. We choose the intensity route because, again, I don't have time to be at the gym 10 hours a week like I used to. So people are definitely out there right now in traditional gyms lifting weights and getting results. But it's extremely time consuming, and it's also it's very inefficient, but it's also unsafe the way people. You watch the momentum, and they get moving their bodies around. If you're doing bicep curls or whatever, and the back's starting to move like this, the injury rates for a lot of these places are 30 to 40% of people will suffer a significant injury in the first 90 days, and then they quit. And if you're at home on the couch, you're definitely not getting fitter. You're probably going backwards. So the idea behind ARX was to say, you could get on there, I could get on there, an NFL lineman could get on there, and then my mom can get on there with no adjustments to the equipment. It's just going to move, and you're going to create as much force as you can. And so it's basically you versus you at all times, and you don't have to worry about, well, how much weight should I add? Am I trying to go up, progress? It makes it really, really simple. So that's at the bedrock. And if we look at that, most osteopaths, for example, like the bone doctors, they don't even believe that the average person can gain bone over a certain age. Their hope is that they can get somebody to do enough resistance training to just stop losing it. But that's because they know you need to put about 4 times your body weight on the load of the bone in order to grow bone. Well, try doing that safely with weights. You just can't, right? So with ARX, you can, and we see people reverse osteopenia and osteoporosis all the time. It's an exciting thing to watch people put on muscle and bone that haven't before. So yeah, I could talk about resistance training all day, but what do most people care about? They want a lean body. They'll say words like toned, or they'll say a bunch of buzzwords that they've heard on YouTube or whatever. What they really mean is less fat, more muscle. Like that's ultimately what's at the core of body fat composition, driving down that percentage, the ratio of fat to muscle. That's what we're looking for.
So you used one is fascinating. So it makes sense. So if I'm hearing you, and for the listeners who want to hear it again, the benefit of ARX is that it's providing resistance in the down movement or in the negative movement that normally there wouldn't be as much resistance. And so therefore it's breaking down the muscle maybe in the most optimal way, creating some efficiency in time. Did I explain it? Like, is that?
Yeah, it is allowing you to tap into your potential and your maximum capability on both the positive and the negative, the concentric and the eccentric, but that eccentric is where the magic is, that negative, and being able to fully load that negative, that's where all the micro tearing in the muscle happens. So muscle, most people don't understand how it gets built. First you have to tear it down, and then it builds back bigger. Well, creating as much micro trauma to the muscle in a safe way, that's the magic. Like that's what it does. And so it allows everybody to tap into their potential without having to waste hours and hours.
Got it. No, it's fascinating. It's really, really cool. And I've had the honor, I mean, it was a while ago, I'll have to get back in there, to use the machine. And I remember, I was like, that thing kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like it doesn't look intimidating until you're on it, and you're like, whoa, right?
And the more fit somebody is, the better trained they are, the more it destroys them, because it's exciting.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like, if you're never done, with the, I'm forgetting why, I'm just having a brain fart, but like stabilizer muscles. If you've never used your stabilizer muscles, sometimes holding a pose in yoga can be harder than bench pressing weight, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just not used to that movement. And so that's kind of what I equated it to, and the soreness that I felt days after. So you mentioned bench press, and that's an easy movement. So what can you work out the entire body? Is it just main lifts? Is there different machines of ARX? Like, help us visualize that.
It's 2 machines. Both are, we have a methodology where we start everybody off with what we call the big 5. So what you want to do is activate all the compound muscle groups. So that's doing a leg press is hitting your quads and your glutes. Doing a chest press is activating your triceps and your chest. So we want all the big movements first, and we get everybody to a baseline strength. And that takes about 60 days just to take somebody from hasn't trained in a long time to they can perform these movements and they've gotten really good gains from it. But a lot of people want to do more. Now, you can just stay with the once a week, big 5 is what we call it. So it's leg press, chest press, row, pull downs, and overhead press. Those are your 5 big movements. And that is maybe 20 to 30% of our members are like, I'm really busy. Like, that gets the job done for me. That's great. A lot of people, twice a week is kind of the sweet spot. But if you're really training hard, you can't recover in 2 or 3 or 4 days. It takes a good 4, 5, 6 days. So what we do is we move to a split set. We just call it a push-pull. So you're going to do push movements on a Monday and then pull movements on a Thursday or Tuesday and Friday, Wednesday and Saturday, whatever you want to do there. So most people come in twice a week for 15 minutes. Now, if they want to add other things, red light therapy, biocharger, Vasper, all the other things that we do, that's great. But twice a week is what we recommend for the resistance training side of things. And that's going to give you the best bang for the buck and in the safest way possible. And then after that, the muscle growth happens when you leave the studio. So you've done all this damage to the muscle. Now it's about consuming a good diet, getting good sleep. All those things matter outside the studio as well.
Yeah. No, 100%. So you mentioned, what's the other machine? How is the other machine different than? How are the machines different than each other?
They are. We've got the alpha model is very simple. It's a linear model where you're just doing leg press, chest press, and row on that one. It's the other model is the Omni, and it's a cable-driven machine. With cables comes a lot more flexibility to do a lot more movements, but it also requires more attention to skill and to form when you start using cables. Like you mentioned with the stabilizer muscles for a yoga pose or whatever, the difference between doing a chest press on the alpha is it's super, super stable. You're just pressing, don't really have to worry about anything. On the Omni, because it's cables, you're going to be shaking, and some people love that. And it's kind of a personal preference kind of thing. I wouldn't say either is better or worse than the other, but they complement each other. The Omni does things that the Alpha can't do and vice versa. So they're really meant to go together. Most people, you'll come in, it's a 15-minute block. You start on the Alpha, you move over to the Omni, and it happens very, very quickly. It's very intense. But most people I've found, if you ask them, people who have struggled with weight loss, and when we say weight loss, let's be more accurate. What they mean is fat loss, right? We don't want to lose weight, we don't want to lose bone, and we don't want to lose muscle. So when it comes to losing fat, most people get burnout and frustrated because what they're doing takes so long to get somewhere that the results take forever. It becomes really, really discouraging. And I always tell people it's counterintuitive, but it's easier to go fast than slow. And so when you're trying to achieve your ideal body composition, I would rather see people really get after it and dial it in for a shorter amount of time. Get to where you want to be, because life's a lot more fun. You're only in 2 modes. Well, you can be in 1 and 3, but you really don't want to be in the third, which is fat gain mode. Nobody really tries to target that, right? Like, we want to avoid that one. So most people are either in we want to make progress mode or maintenance mode. Maintenance mode is a heck of a lot more fun. You have a lot more flexibility on how often you eat, what you eat, how often you train, all of that. When you're happy with where you're at and you're just trying to maintain, that's a completely different workout protocol and diet plan than cutting fat. That takes a very specific both diet and workout routine. So we always encourage people, hit it really hard. Maximal intensity is how you trigger the brain to say, I'm not strong enough for this. Grow me more bone, grow me more muscle. That's all we're trying to do with resistance training.
I'm learning here. I'm taking a lot of mental notes. It's good. It's a lot of good stuff. Okay, so let's just run through a day, because I think because I'm visualizing this. I'm coming in. I'm getting my 15 minutes on the machines. I'm shaking. I'm walking like Bambi out of that. Where am I headed next?
I think most people.
Yeah, let's go through all of them.
Yeah, let's go through it. I personally, I like to start with the red light therapy is great for collagen production, makes your skin look much more vibrant, youthful, recover from injuries much faster, boosts nitric oxide production. It's anti-inflammatory in general. It's just a great thing to do pre-workout. So I start with that. That's just a 10-minute quick session in the red light room. And it's pretty neat if you walk by on Central. You'll see the place all lit up in red light. But it's really, really healthy for you. And that's one of those things that would be really difficult to do at home. I mean, these panels are very expensive. Like the average person is just certainly not going to outfit their house with a bunch of crazy red light panels. So you go from that to ARX. We've talked a lot about that. So you're going to hit that really hard for about 15 minutes. And then most people are either going to finish with the biocharger, which is a cellular charger is the way to think of it. So no different than your cell phone, as you use it throughout the day, it starts depleting the battery. And if it gets down too low, you got to plug it in, charge it back up. Our cells actually function in a very similar way. Cells with low voltage have all kinds of problems. They're prone to mutation. This is oftentimes where cancers start to come in, at some point in life when the cells just aren't operating at their peak capacity. So the biocharger does for the body and the cells what the phone charger does for the phone's battery, which is just raise up the voltage and get you functioning at a more optimal level. And the biocharger is kind of crazy. They've got, I think it's 700 or 800 different recipes on it. So you can target anything from liver health, inflammation, any number of things, because all the organs in your body actually operate on different frequencies. Mm-hmm. And so this machine has 4 different frequency technologies, all designed. We could spend hours talking about the biology of how this thing works. I thought it was voodoo, pseudoscience,
well, that's
like
what I was
woo,
about
whatever.
You're getting to my follow-up question on
Absolutely.
that one. Yeah.
It's the most, it requires the most research to understand what it's doing. And then once you understand what it's doing, I cannot imagine not having it in my life. I mean, I think it's critical, paramount to longevity and to health. So that would be kind of that's the order in which I do things. I'll take about 45 minutes. I do that twice a week. And that's it. It's all the training I do.
So that was 3 of the 6.
Yep.
What are the other 3?
So you've got the cold tub, which if you're going to do cold tub, you never want to do that after resistance training because that will blunt some of the pro-inflammatory response we want from the resistance training, so you won't grow as much muscle. Mm-hmm. But if you do it before, you'll actually do more work. So we have a lot of people that'll start in the cold tub. Now, it's not for everybody. I get that. If you can stand it and tolerate it, our cold tub typically sits at about 42 degrees.
Nice and warm.
Nice and warm, yep. And but if you do that and then you go do ARX, you're going to produce a lot more work. The more you can cool the body down. One of the limitations of resistance training is as we start sweating, we start losing efficiency because the body's got to switch gears and say, well, I got to cool myself down. That's what sweating is. You're trying to cool the body down. And so the colder you are to start, the more work you can do. Then you've got the Carol bikes. What makes Carol, so it looks like any traditional stationary bike you've ever seen. So you've got the really famous ones like Peloton, mm-hmm. some of the big brands for at home. Carol is different because it is designed around learning you and what you're capable of, and everybody's a little different. So it learns what your force output is in wattage. And it's designed around 2 20-second sprints that are going to deplete 90 to 95% of the glycogen in your muscles in these 2 20-second sprints. So talk about intensity versus volume. That's all it is 40 seconds of work. It's like a 2-minute warm-up, 20-second sprint, 3 minutes in between, 20-second sprint, and then a little cool down. And it doesn't sound like much, sprinting for 20 seconds, but my goodness.
Oh, no, that's
it will wipe you out.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that is, what we're trying to do when people struggle with their weight, because why does anybody join any fitness facility at all, right? They're either unhappy with the amount of fat they have or they're unhappy with the amount of muscle they have or both. And so when we talk about losing fat, you have to talk about how do you control blood sugar? How do you control an insulin response? Now, a big chunk of that is obviously going to be diet. It's going to be what you do outside of the studio. But what we can do is the more muscle somebody carries, this isn't just about vanity. This is about longevity because the more muscle you carry, the more calories you burn at rest just sitting here talking on a podcast. I carry about 15 pounds more lean tissue than the average guy my height. What that does for me is orders of 100 plus, 200 plus calories per day that I don't have to dispose of with exercise just because of the very nature of the muscle. So the more muscle you carry, the more metabolically fit you will be, and it will help you dispose of glucose. So glucose, another name for sugar, is every time you eat, it is toxic to your blood supply. It has to get it out of the blood. So insulin's only job is you eat something, blood sugar goes up, insulin comes in and has to lower that blood sugar. Well, insulin can only store it. In the absence of you doing like intense workout or whatever and using it, it's got to store it somewhere. The problem is most people, the glycogen stores in your muscles are full because you haven't done anything all day or an intense workout. The liver is typically full. That's the number one place it goes and empties and fills the liver. So if neither of those are available, it has to store it as fat. And that's how people gain weight. And most people don't understand the relationship of what they eat and how it drives blood sugar and then the insulin response. But all that being said, if you have more muscle, you have more place to store that glucose and you store it for later. And then when you do a really intense workout, you burn through that glucose. And we call this insulin sensitivity or insensitivity is how most people wind up gaining lots of weight over time because they can't dispose of their glucose properly.
I think we're all just taking notes here, Jason. I think we're all just taking notes. You definitely know your stuff. Okay, so that was the bike. You talked about the bike and the cold plunge. What was the third one?
I think we hit them. That's so red lights, ARX. Oh, Vasper. So
Vasper. Yeah, I've never heard of that. What is that?
Most people haven't. It's an incredible piece of equipment. It is basically, I would call it a zone 2 trainer. We could talk more about the 5 different zones if that's of interest, but it's a zone 2 trainer. But what makes it unique is it's using blood flow restriction combined with cooling in order to dramatically boost growth hormone production naturally, which is very, very difficult to do otherwise. So the science behind it, that would be its own podcast all in and of itself. But you put these cuffs on your arms and your legs, and you make it really tight, and you're intentionally pooling the blood, and you're trying to restrict its flow. And then it's sort of like a recumbent bike, if you will. Like it's real comfortable to sit on, but you're also in these cuffs. It's not just making it tight. It feels similar to if you get your blood pressure checked, right? They pump the thing up and it feels a little tight. You're doing that, but during exercise, and those cuffs have really cold water running through them. So they're cold. And so you're trying to bring the body temp down, which again lets you do more work. And then the restriction of the blood flow and then the release of that generates a lot of growth hormone. And growth hormone is great for everything. Muscle synthesis, sleeping better, hormone regulation in general. Just a really incredible piece of equipment. Very high end. All this stuff that I'm talking about these are all commercial grade machines, so they're quite expensive. These aren't home units for the most part, but my goodness, are they effective? So most people will come in, and Vesper is one of those. People just love how they feel. They always report that they sleep way better. It's a really, really neat device. It's 21 minutes each time. There's a bunch of different protocols that you can do, but it's always 21 minutes. And then you lay on a cooling bed for 10 minutes afterwards, and that just extends the benefits. And so between the hormones there, you got the muscle and bone with ARX, you got the red light therapy, the biocharger, the Caro bikes, and the cold tub. That's our collection now, and we're just now rolling out VO2 max testing with a little device called Pinoe. And VO2 max is really, all the most recent literature suggests that it is one of the most tightly correlated things that we can track to your overall longevity. So people with a high VO2 max score, and we should start with what is VO2 max? It's your body's ability to use oxygen to transport and to create energy. So most people, it declines over time no matter what, but the more you train, and specifically high intensity training like on ARX and on Vasper, those are going to very substantially improve your VO2 max, which makes everyday life so much easier. It just energy production. Most people report feeling sluggish, feeling tired, even when they're getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep at night. They don't have the same oomph that they had in their 20s and 30s. That is typically a result of of lowering VO2 max and not being able to properly use oxygen the way your body used to. So put it all together. Basically, everything that you can do for the body, we can handle at the studio. And I think what people love most about it, and we already talked about the safety and the efficiency, the effectiveness, all that. There are just so many things out there that people are doing that don't work. And it's really frustrating because I watch people who are really dedicated. I mean, they're going 3, 4, 5 days a week. And whether that's Pilates or yoga, or there's so many things out there that people put the time into, but they don't see the results that they're looking for. And my deep belief is it's because there just isn't enough intensity to what they're doing. And so you're not going to lose the fat and you're not going to gain muscle. So you're doing this really hard thing. Now, are there other benefits? Absolutely. Pro-social benefits, meeting with friends, going for a run, St. Pete, the run club, see people out there all the time. That always seems like a pretty convenient excuse to go have beers afterwards. But at least that's what I've observed. Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame how often I hear people complain about, gosh, I'm at the gym 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a week. I mean, they're putting the time in, they're not getting the results. And it's because the equipment is super inefficient and it can't get you the kind of resistance that you need to make real progress.
And they're not really doing the deal.
That's
and
something.
They're not eating right.
Oh, yeah.
And they're still drinking a lot.
All those things go together, right? Or they're sleeping 4 hours a night. And,
right. I mean, I've seen it, right? I think what you offer is a solution that minimizes the ability to not be intense, right?
Yep.
And I just have when I watch people, to your point, that maybe they're socially fit.
Sure.
To all the things that you just remember. But like, are you really going hard?
And most don't even know what that feels like.
Right. And it's tough for me because, I come from wrestled through school, military background, and, to get into that. So it's like, where it's like where you push yourself, where you're on that teeter-totter edge, and there's always more that you can do, and unlock those things. But not everyone knows how to unlock that next thing. And so I love.
And do it safely.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's tough.
Exactly. And then diet and mindset and recovery and all the things like you talked about.
All goes together. And for most people, if you asked them, if I told you could get the exact same result and one path takes an hour a week, the other path takes 10 to 20, I mean, which one are they going to choose?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in this world, it's going to be the efficient, of course.
Of course. Now if you're independently wealthy, if you've got nothing to do all day but train and whatever, like, okay, great. Like if exercise is your thing.
Yeah,
like,
I guess that would be the only, like, for me, right? If I love the model, and honestly, and I live so close. I'm like, all right, you just sold me. You're obviously very educated in what you got going on, Jason, and you're offering a solution that most people probably don't even realize they need, right? And that's probably if I were to guess, if there is a difficulty, is that you have to explain these new things because they are so new, because the gyms have been the same forever, and the only thing we've got introduced to is maybe spin classes, or some, even that's been around. There's just maybe a different format of the thing that we're used to, right? Maybe I don't know, I'm thinking of like the most outrageous thing that's been like Zumba, right? When Zumba was like a big thing.
Yeah, or go back P90X,
P90X,
at-home stuff.
Yeah.
You got a million things.
Yeah,
I think, but thankfully it's changing. Thankfully, what I'm hearing way more, and I always know that we've gotten to a place, like I think about it from a technology perspective. When my parents start calling me saying, do you know about XYZ? That's when I know it's really penetrated the mass market. And what I would say is, just a few weeks ago, Dr. Peter Attia was on 60 Minutes. So by the time you're on like major publications like that, like famous brands that people know, the education's starting to get out there. The problem becomes, I don't know really any women over the age of 50 who aren't aware these days that bone mineral density is a really big problem. Unfortunately, it affects women disproportionately to men and at a younger age. It will affect men too, but it happens earlier for women. They know the problem. They either have a doctor who tells them it's something they need to be concerned about, or they've either broken a bone, or just in a general scan, by the time you get to 50, 55, 60, bone mineral density starts to become a real topic. They know about it. The problem becomes, what do you do? How do you fix it? And the idea of my 72-year-old mom going to CrossFit or but where is she going to go that's going to make sure she doesn't get hurt, that's really safe, and gets a really high quality workout with high intensity? It doesn't really exist anywhere in the market.
No, you nailed a good point. And I think to your point of our access to information has changed dramatically over the last 20 years, right? Dramatically. And so now you're not just waiting for the 60-minute thing. You can know about these things on your own without having to go to the library and
the only downside of that is there's so much content.
There's too much content, and there's a lot of false, untrue,
tons of it
content. Yep. And so how do you weed through and know?
It's hard.
Right. Yeah. So there is that, and then luckily we have people like you that are in this space to educate us. So that's
trying.
Great. Yeah. No. You're doing. I have so many directions I want to go with this conversation, and so I think let's just spend like a couple minutes on history of ARX and how it came to be, because that machine found you.
Yeah.
And now you're heading the company, yep. Which is fascinating, which shows your passion and belief behind it. So give us that little short story.
Yeah, it's a great journey. So I've got a great partner in Austin. St. Pete and Austin, I consider them kind of cousin
weirdly
cities.
the same.
They're
right?
weirdly the same.
Yeah,
you know?
Keep it weird.
It's
right?
it's I guess a left-leaning city in a right-leaning state, and so it's an interesting mixture of people, very tech-forward, very fitness-oriented. There's a lot in common between the two, and so I've had the great barbecue fortune of spending a lot of time in Austin over the last 10, 11 years. I mean, I literally get off the plane, I go straight to Terry Black's barbecue.
You gotta go.
That is always the move. But I got an amazing partner and original founder, Mark Alexander, in Austin. He founded the company. I came in a year or so after. The company hadn't really gone to market yet. I saw him on a podcast like this one, and I had been studying Tim Ferriss wrote a lot about the Colorado experiment I think it was 4 Hour Body, one of his books. And what it talked about was eccentric training, that heavy negative training, and how much muscle you could put on in a really short amount of time. So I had been training that way as best I could with traditional weights. And then I saw these machines, and I thought, I knew at the moment I saw it, this is it. Like, this is going to change the world. Where can I use these? Well, come to find out, get on a phone call. There's 3 of them in the whole world, and like they're just getting on. There's definitely none here in Florida, and so I fly into Austin, meet with Mark and a couple other guys there, and it was just an incredibly fortunate time in my life, because I was looking for something I could really sink my teeth into, a new project. I was really passionate about this particular space. I've struggled my whole life with insulin resistance, so I'm a terrible fat metabolizer. I'm a terrible carb metabolizer. I am more prone to gain body fat as a result. Some of that's genetic, some of that is diet when you're young, some of it's certainly diet, as you go. But some people are more predisposed to not being able to dispose of glucose than others. And so resistance training has always been a real passion of mine, because it's the one tried and true way. The more muscle you carry, the more likely you are to be able to handle all that. So I fly into Austin, and it was just amazing how fast it went from, I just said, I just want to be a part of this. Like, let me jump in. I was a contractor to start. Like, let me handle your marketing and sales. And was
that your background before marketing?
Yeah. Operations, marketing, sales. Like, I've always been I love small businesses, love small companies. I love wearing multiple hats. Like, once companies get to 30, 40, 50 people, it's just no longer, I'm not a corporate guy. Mm-hmm. And love founding companies, love starting them, love running, small businesses and building teams. And so a couple years later, got equity in the business. A couple of years after that, became CEO about four years ago. So ARX has been my life for a decade now. I just absolutely love it. But selling machines to facilities, most of our customers are personal trainers, and they want to bring next generation technology to their members. We have a lot of high net worth home buyers who just want the best of the best. As you can imagine, if you have the kind of means to buy a $50,000 piece of exercise equipment and COVID happened and your lockdowns or whatever, anybody who could write that check did. So we have a lot of home buyers. We're on a lot of
COVID
yachts.
was good for business.
Oddly enough, yes, it was great for the manufacturing side. It was terrible for all of our retail customers who couldn't see their members for a while. But obviously, it affected some states more than others. We were lucky here in Florida that it wasn't quite as impactful. But we also, yachts and homes all over the world. But our bread and butter is kind of the next generation studio. And so the evolution was, I got the equipment, started a showroom here in St. Petersburg. People are flying in from all over the world to see the tech. And obviously, if you're going to make a $50,000 to $100,000 investment with ARX, there's some level of trust that gets built, there. So the next question would always be, what else do you think I should buy? And so that turned into an opportunity to contact some of my favorite vendors, all the things I just listed, and say, let's get this all under one roof. People can fly in and try everything all at once. And then enough people in the community found out what I had in there and said, hey man, like you've got all the best tech in the world. Like, how can I use this? And that's where Biohack Studios was born, was to create a retail concept that brought the best of all that technology to a schedulable, easy to access facility, one membership, everything you need for both your performance, your workouts, and your recovery. So you got the cold tub and the biocharger and the red lights for recovery. You got ARX, Carol, and Vasper for your workouts.
What a journey you went on to get there. So you started off, one, just finding it and then turning into a showroom, and showroom turned into what is now Biohack Studios.
Yep.
Pretty cool. And I love when business, because it's almost like it happened, it was an intentional accident almost, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's funny how, what's the old line? Opportunity or luck is where opportunity and preparation meet, something like that.
No, that's exactly it.
And I feel very much like everything I had tried back in the day, like just trying to stay plugged into how am I going to live as long as possible and as healthy as possible. And I was always just really passionate about it, but that didn't have anything to do with my career at the time. Just sales marketing guy, for a variety of different companies. But when your vocation becomes your vacation, something like that, you've really found something like this. This never feels like work.
You're not living. Yeah, you're not working. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole yet. I want to bring someone up that's trying to live well over 100. Brian Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but his psychedelic trip on mushrooms was just documented, and I wanted to read some of that because I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Only thing I didn't hear you mention was sauna.
Sauna, awesome. Recommend everybody get one or use one. I think for a business, this is more about, there are 100 things out there I would love to have in the studio. Some of them are cost prohibitive. There's an immortal bed that does a gajillion things. It looks really cool, and it's like $200,000. So, there's some things, hyperbaric chambers, another one. Wildly beneficial, but takes up a ton of room. It's got to be staffed. So the filter that everything goes through for Biohack Studios is it self-service or not? That eliminates a certain amount of things where if you need staff there, that is the thing we're trying to do with Biohack Studios. We don't want to be, most of my ARX customers around the world, their memberships are $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month. They're on the higher end, and most of that's driven by the labor model. Most of that is you got to have the trainers there, the staffing there, and it really makes for a difficult business. You need a lot of members to cover all that staff. And then you got the rent, then you got the equipment leases, and all of that. So Biohack Studios is designed. It's got to be self-service. But we also want to keep a small footprint, and we don't have shower facilities. And so to bring sauna in, everybody's sweating like crazy.
Yeah, who's going to clean
place stinks. Who's going to clean it?
Yeah.
So
I thought that as you were, I just had to address it because it was the only thing in my head, because I was like, man, sauna, and then you got everything there. But it makes sense that without staff.
Yeah, I think a future location, if we did a larger one, it just kind of changes the business model a little. People don't recognize, like a commercial shower, you're adding $30,000 to $50,000 to your build out for your space. These are not inconsequential considerations for a small business, but I would love to do it. I think there are enough products that exist now. We've got a partnership with Therasage and Robbie Bessner, and they make these amazing pop-up saunas. So they're small enough that they can fold up and fit under your bed, but you pop them up, you zip it up
and your head
around
sticks
your neck.
Out. Yeah,
your head stays
My
out.
stepdad has one.
They're really effective, and you can actually go much, much hotter because your brain is the limiter on sauna. So you can go really, really hot on some of these. So I think anything that somebody can buy for $500 or less for their home, not saying that's an insignificant amount of money, but it's an approachable amount of money for if you look at a sauna going to last you 5-10 years at home, $50 for all the health benefits, I think, $500 spread out over that 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
I think it's a worthwhile investment for most people. So we try to focus on the things that the 99% are not going to spend. There's $300,000 worth of equipment in our studio. Most of the single pieces are $50,000 or more. So like it's just extraordinarily cost prohibitive for the home.
Makes sense. I just knew that the amount of research now.
Oh yeah.
On saunas is ridiculous.
Especially contrast. Do the cold tub and the sauna back and forth, contrast therapy. It's all the rage right now.
Yeah.
I was a crazy person 10 years ago when I bought my cold tub. There was no plunge.com. There wasn't anything. I bought one of the very first commercially available tubs, and I really got it for myself, not thinking anybody else would use it. It was just one of those scratch your own itch kind of things. Come to find out, like a good 30 to 40% of our members use it regularly. So I'm not saying it's the overwhelming majority, but we have quite a few who see the benefits from it.
Well, no, I haven't gotten in a tub in a minute, but I do enjoy the mental aspect of it, and then the endorphin feeling after of everything that your body. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Really, really good. Yeah, I wanted to bring up because just like St. Pete audience and St. Pete's all down and keeps it weird. So I knew they would appreciate if you haven't seen. I want to get your take on it. Brian Johnson, who. If you don't know who he is, go look him up because it's kind of this man has dedicated his life to longevity.
Yeah,
and is doing more bio testing and biomarkers and brain scans than anyone. I don't know. Do you know anyone outperforming him in terms of tracking? And
no, I don't think he'd make the claim if it wasn't true or if anybody had ever challenged him. But he is the most tested human ever. I think he's spent upwards of $2 million at this point just on blood work testing, and he sold his company Braintree to, I believe it was PayPal, Venmo. I think it was like an $800 million acquisition. So he did extremely well in tech, and basically went down this journey. He struggled with his weight multiple times throughout his life, and went on this journey to say his slogan is "Don't die." And I think it's great, and I think what Brian's doing is amazing. He's controversial only from a standpoint of a lot of the modalities he experiments with people just either haven't seen before, or he says a couple of things that like people don't want to be true. So Brian doesn't drink alcohol, and so that right there you lose some people. He's also either vegetarian or vegan. I can't remember which, but so he's not into plant-based, or he's not into animal-based products. But I think just like with anybody, like any good book, any influencer out there, take what works for you, leave the rest. What's amazing about Brian is he's all about quantifying every little thing that they do and what impact does it have on, like he recently did a sauna experiment. And he'd never had sauna in it before, and people would always reach out, why don't you use sauna? Why don't you use a sauna? And he kind of documented his journey, I think it was like 60 days. You want to travel in somewhere in there, but he measures everything. So when he adds something new to his routine,
you can see exactly how it affects the body.
Getting his blood work done, getting all all the scans.
Yeah, what was the sauna outcomes? Did you see it?
He was very very pro, and I think for a lot, he was kind of expecting. If I understood, if I caught everything from it, I don't think he thought sauna was all that necessary. So he had a couple of concerns. One is part of longevity or just overall health would be your sexual health as well. So for guys, there's actually your testes need to be a little bit cooler than the body. So warming up the boys down there is not good.
Counterproductive.
Is very, very counterproductive. So he countered that by just stuffing ice packs down in his underwear while doing the sauna. Same thing on the head, trying to keep that cool, keep the brain cooler. But all in all, he was very surprised, and he kind of thought sauna might be a great solution for more sedentary people, because if you're in there at 200 degrees, 210, your heart rate is going to start pumping. So his initial perception was like, well, maybe some of these longevity benefits are actually tied to, these are in like Nordic countries where most of the research, comes out, Sweden, Finland, and he was wondering, maybe these are people who don't train and exercise as aggressively as he already does, and therefore maybe this just isn't necessary. Nope, he's changed his tune on it. He's a big fan of sauna now. I mean, there's just too many benefits. It's low hanging fruit to add to the mix, if you will.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love how up to speed you are. And I thought it was fascinating. Not only so now he's added psilocybin to his longevity reports here, and he took 4.67 grams of what everyone knows as magic mushrooms to be 24.9 milligrams of psilocybin, the dose used in modern clinical trials.
So he went heroic dose. He went all the way.
He went all the way.
This wasn't microdosing.
No.
Okay.
He was in there. And I'll just read the first post. And if you're interested, go follow him. But I just know the St. Pete audience appreciates and is open-minded to this. And I thought it was cool because being a veteran and having friends with PTSD and all the things, I've been closely following the research on the use of compounds that have been illegal for years, and now we're opening up to research and finding that we probably screwed ourselves for 30 years on our advancements that we could be making.
Yep.
And the literature is there, and if you don't believe me, download Perplexity and AI that verifies and fact checks, and go ask of the clinical trials and benefits of psychedelics. So Brian Johnson tweets after he's done, says, the first experience was exhilarating, positive in every way. I felt like a kid finding and exploring a new playground. My sensory perception was dialed up to levels I must have felt as a kid, but have been dulled with time. I experienced sense of touch with awe. Feeling my fingers rubbed together felt novel. Touching my skin and running my feet over the threaded quilt lit up my brain. It seemed that my mind was I don't know what that word is, fourth grade reading level, curious and wanted to deploy its sensors into the world and discover all things. I felt the same sensory joy in moving my body, rolling my joints, curving my back, curling up in a ball, flexing muscles, blah, 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 blah. My sense of hearing was equally as elevated. It helped that I was also wearing my new hearing aids, which I found that fascinating that he has some I don't know the reason as to why he wears those, which restore frequencies I'd long stopped noticing. The music I listened to hit more beautifully than I remembered. I'm trying to thought. I thought he talked about the one. You got to go read. It's a long post. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's on his Instagram, and I think he's doing that same dose either once a week or once a month for 3 or 4 times in a row.
Okay.
And then we'll report back on the data, because I think he saw that there was some new data that came out that psilocybin helped brain repair and things like that.
Yep.
So
rewiring, really. I mean, talk about biohacking.
Yeah.
I would say the two. If you were to ask me what I'm most bullish on for overall health that are not quite understood by the masses, I think most people know carrying too much fat leads to heart disease, stroke, heart attack, all the downstream effects of that. We've already talked a lot about resistance training and all that. I would say the lesser known things or the lesser understood things between psilocybin, potentially MDMA, and GLP-1s. This will change the world. I mean, from a health and fitness perspective, if anybody's still skeptical of the GLP-1, so that's your Ozempics, your tirzepatides, so it's semaglutide is the chemical name, and tirzepatide, second and third generation of those. So you'll know them by the brand names of Ozempic or Mounjaro. These have become demonized, and it is a terrible misjustice for most people. If you're more than 15, 20 pounds over the weight and you haven't explored what these things can do for you, you owe it to yourself to go down that rabbit hole and really look. There are very, very few complications, very few people. And most of the complications are you took a little too much too quick and there's some nausea or whatever. And that all is just dose dependent for most people. 0.1% will have some gastric issues, but for the overwhelming majority of people, GLP-1s, it will change their life, because most people walk around every day with a little demon on their shoulder going, I'm hungry. And turning down that food volume, turning down the noise on, GLP-1s. When I first took them, I struggle like most people. Not only have I been insulin resistant, most of my life, food has always been a coping mechanism. So whether it's relationship struggles, business struggles, stress in whatever, food has always been that go-to for me, or at least it used to be. And so I have been on my own fat loss journey. And what I can tell you with certainty is when you can turn off, and I mean turn it off, like you just don't think about food. It just goes away. And it makes it so much easier to make smarter choices, protein-heavy choices instead of all the carby and fatty stuff. Like I mentioned before, I'm a terrible fat and carb burner, so protein's my sweet spot. It is for most people. But just that ability to say, I'm not hungry and I don't think about it. For most people, they spend, especially people 30 pounds overweight, they spend all day thinking about food, all day. And whether that's self-induced because you have a bagel for breakfast and then your blood sugar crashes and now you want a donut for, whatever. People yo-yo through these blood sugar spikes. Imagine just turning that off completely. So I'm really pro GLP-1 for the average person. It is going to make
how much,
that.
and this is me just playing the other side of the coin
Sure.
because I don't know enough. And being a skeptic, not actually, but I'm going to pretend to be.
Steelman the other side.
Yeah. How much time of research have we had on GLP-1s, and how, like you said, okay, side effects so far, and what is it doing? Is it altering just brain chemistry? Are we numbing out some neurons? Like, how much do you know in the depth of that?
It's really working on two different receptors. So on the one hand, you are slowing down digestion. So just by the nature of slowing digestion down, you are going to release that glucose slower. The slower you can release it, the more time you have to deal with it, to dispose of it in a healthy way. The worst thing you can do for your body is, well, think about what we all do at restaurants, right? We go, what's the first thing they serve you?
Bread.
Yeah, bread or tortilla chips at a Mexican spot. You could take, there's great research out there on this, where if you took two groups of people and you gave them the exact same meal, so whether it's a steak with some fries and mix in some protein, some carbs and some fat, the exact same meal, depending on what order you eat things, has a dramatically different impact on your blood sugar. Mm-hmm. So just by starting with the protein, you will dramatically blunt the insulin response, the blood sugar response that leads to the insulin response that leads to you storing all that around the middle for most people. So if you think of it from that perspective, we do everything backwards. Like if you're going to enjoy some bread, it should be after the meal. If you're going to enjoy some chips, but that's just not how we're all wired to be. So the slowing down of the digestion with the GLP-1s means that, one, you're going to lessen that impact, but number two, you're going to stay fuller much, much longer, which leads back to the satiety thing, where if you're not sitting there with that little devil on your shoulder going, feed me, and then the other works on the brain that just really turns down the volume on the hunger. And that's how they work. And I mean, we can get into the biochemical side of it, but
yeah. Well, that's interesting. I haven't dove into it enough because I'm maybe one of the rare few where I don't have that devil on my shoulder. No, I got. Yeah, I know it's really weird. I say I have the opposite problem of most. I struggle to put weight on. Like I have to go to the gym to gain weight.
That's the ectomorph body type, right? It's lean. It's struggled to put on muscle. They call those hard gainers.
Yeah,
and
people go, "You're so lucky." I go, "It's still a problem."
Yeah, sure. I've got friends in that camp that they train real hard. They eat tons of protein, and it's just some. Now that's unfortunate for you. That's only about 10% of the population.
So I can't relate with 90% because I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like I have to, my team has to tell me, Ryan, you need to eat lunch. I'm like, oh shit, you're right.
Yeah.
I only know when my thoughts start to go foggy and I'm like, oh God, what's going on?
And you could turn that on. I mean, some of the things you could add. So if you were at the studio and we linked you up with our concierge doctor, what they would say is that there's so many great growth hormone peptides out there now. So testosterone would be the starting point for that. Now, a lot of these are pricey. These are still made at compounding pharmacies. They're expensive, but
What's expensive?
Testosterone is probably $1,200 for a 2-month supply. So, but these aren't things that you'll like take forever. So you do them in like spurts. And think about how like a bodybuilder trains, right? Like they go from like bulking and cutting phases, back and forth, like competitive fitness people. So you would do it for 2 months and then take a month or two off, get up to the size of lean tissue, because even for someone like you who has trouble putting the weight on, once you have it, if you continue training, you'll keep it. You know, it's not just going to go away. It's putting it on that's the problem. Obviously, you know, sleep, protein. But if you're already hammering those two things, and we've tested this with people on ARX, when we get somebody who's not gaining at the rate that most people do, when you really dive into it, they're either very underfed protein-wise, and most people have no idea, like the target should be 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Well, if you take a 180-pound man, it's a lot of protein. You're eating a ton of protein. Yeah. And so for most people, they just don't have any relationship to like how much should they have. And then the real killer, it's sleep, man. Like most people, when they can't gain, they are not getting that 7.5 hours minimum, and you won't grow. Like your body has to sleep to synthesize new fiber. And if you're not growing, you could be doing everything else right.
I'll get my sleep.
Yeah, well, most people don't.
I'm in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Nice.
Wake up at 5:25, 6. I'm happy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Most people are going to bed at 11:30 and getting up at 6, and they wonder why they feel tired all the time.
No.
And then add a couple drinks of alcohol before you go to bed. It disrupts your deep sleep. All that stuff.
I've locked that in a long time ago. It's just, you know, when you're operating at a level where I'm not in a physical job anymore where you can just like monkey through the day. You don't have to think. Like if my brain is tired, like
the brain power matters.
The day is not happening, and it's an awful place to be. So,
back to your psilocybin real quick. Sorry, I took us down
no,
the GLP-1
no.
route.
I was fascinated by that, and then you led to the whole thing of like, because I'm glad we talked about that, because I just don't relate on that thing. Like to me, food is fuel. You'll
see in the comments of wherever people are watching this right now, most people relate to it.
They hate me.
Yeah,
they hate me. They're like, dude, shut up. Like, I get that. But to me, I'm like, yeah, do I enjoy a good meal? Absolutely. But for most reason, I'm only eating because I need to have fuel.
Yeah.
It's like, I look at like, the body's a Ferrari. I'm going to put good gas in this motherfucker, and we're going to go.
Right.
I don't want to put bad gas in here.
No. Yeah. That's, now, there's something to be said for food all throughout human history has been celebratory. It's been, community. You get together.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I was thinking earlier when you were mentioning, sorry to cut you off, when you were saying about the bread, I was like, okay, why is that a thing? Oh, I know why. Because most of humanity was poor as you know what. And we had to eat the bread first to fill the belly because you didn't have so much meat to eat.
Nope. And you might go 3, 4, 5, 6 days without any meat. Hunter-gatherer lifestyles, you had the men go out and from the tribe, and you hope they come back with something.
So you eat the bread to make you feel full.
Yep. And we didn't, things were different back then. We didn't destroy the food supply. Like our wheat these days isn't anything like it used
Jason,
to be.
Don't get me started. I've been on this kick because we just spent some time. The past 2 summers, I've gone to Italy. They have real bread.
Real bread.
Real bread.
Eat pasta without feeling terrible.
Oh my gosh. And you can eat all it's just, and then you come back, I had 1 burger. And my stomach was I was bloated. I felt terrible. I'm like, gosh, welcome back.
Yep.
Welcome back.
I have the same experience. Every time I go to Europe, I'm just amazed that I can eat basically anything I want.
Eat and drink.
Yep. Doesn't matter.
I think I had a
Maybe
bottle.
You're walking a lot too. That helps a little bit.
Yeah, but sure. But I mean, a bottle of Prosecco, I would say every day.
They all do.
And you wake up feeling just fine.
Yep.
Not even the slightest hangover. You're like, what was that? Magical water.
And we're trying to battle over here our food supply. And that would take us down a whole different tangent. But on the psilocybin tip, so GLP-1s and then psilocybin, that was a topic like most people. I would say psilocybin for me, or any psychedelics in general, the government did a really good job back in the 60s and 70s of demonizing all of it, right? So I kind of felt about psilocybin, I had same reluctance I had about TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy, 10 years ago or so. I'm 44. I grew up in the baseball steroid scandal, Barry Bonds and all those guys. I'm like, well, I'm not cheating. I don't want to cheat.
Yeah.
What an idiot. That's so dumb. Like, that is just such a dumb way to look at it. Like, all you're doing with TRT is restoring your body's natural levels of production that start dropping at age 25 in men. So by the time you're 30, 35, 40, and you don't feel the way you used to feel. People think that's just a natural part of aging. It doesn't have to be. I feel better today than I've felt the last 20 years. And so we have tools available to us. Psychedelics was in that camp for me of I'd never tried it. I was pretty straight-laced kid, growing up. I didn't really experiment a whole lot like a lot of, my friends did. There were no magic mushrooms, where at least I didn't know where to find them. And so I've kind of watched this space really closely from a therapeutic and from a research perspective. And it is absolutely fascinating. I mean, obviously I won't name names, but the amount of friends and close people to me who have struggled with anxiety is a big one, depression, PTSD. Like these are all, I've been amazed by the microdosing side of things. And I'm a little annoyed with culture these days when they call it microdosing. It's like, microdosing means sub-perceptual. As in, you can't really notice that you took anything. If you're taking a half a gram or a gram a day, you just like doing drugs. Like, that's fine. But just call it what it is. Right. And, like, you just want to have a good time today. But the microdosing alone, I have watched, and the research behind it is fascinating, how it is actually rewiring the brain and changing the relationship that you have between whether it's specific events, like a PTSD would be a very specific acute, event. That obviously, military background, like that's a huge topic of conversation right now. I mean, the suicide rate amongst veterans is just unbelievable, and to not have every tool at our disposal that could help. And I'm not saying it's a cure-all. Like I don't know if we necessarily know enough to say across the board it's good for everybody. I think there's plenty of situations where you would.
But that's anything.
That's anything, exactly. But you don't eliminate it for all the people that could benefit. But I've definitely watched it firsthand. I've been pretty fortunate in my life at a teacher give me a book when I was a sophomore in high school called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and It's All Small Stuff. And that was sort of the gateway to Stoicism, which is what I started studying later in life. And I've always been a pretty relaxed person. Like, if you can get your mind centered around the fact that like 99% of the things that we stress about, they really don't matter. They just don't.
No.
But that's hard because they feel like they matter in the moment, right? And so people that struggle with anxiety, they don't seem to have a relationship to those stressors that allows them to function at a high level, and it feels entirely out of their control. Like, this isn't something they're making up. People that struggle with anxiety, like, it's a real battle. And I've watched just these microdoses of psilocybin just turn it down. Like, it's almost like think about a really unhealthy way to do it, like benzos, like take a Xanax. Well, the reason people get hooked on Xanax is because it works.
Right.
It's incredibly powerful.
Well,
but
and the come off is terrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
and
they
most
drop.
people can't
They go backwards.
It's horrendous. And so if we can mimic the benefits of a benzo through a natural plant that grows out in the woods, that should at least be explored. I mean, I've seen anecdotally way too many people in my life have just life-changing, profound changes in course from things that used to affect them every single day that now, it just turns it off.
Yeah.
And it seems to be permanent. That's the crazy part, is that it's not like a take forever kind of thing. Like, the brain can rewire. Wild.
Yeah, it's like best analogy I've heard of, like, if we're a system of habits. Everything you do is a habit. I bet you took the toothpaste off the cap off your toothpaste the same way and brushed your teeth the same way you have every day, right? Every single day. But everyone's going to look a little bit different in the way that they put it on. You don't think about opening a door anymore. Just the way you don't think about how the anxiety comes on when you're put into a certain situation or something like that. Everything becomes a habit because these neural pathways in your brain have seared their connections, and the myelin has gone over them and seared them shut. Where the research has said psilocybin comes in, and if those were all paths, if for anyone up north, or if you lived where there's snow, or you can think of like a fresh field with mud and you've driven through it for the first time, after you drive through that so many times, the ruts become really, really deep. And then all of a sudden there's a fresh snow that comes over, and you get to create new paths and actually get to make the choice instead of falling back into the ruts that were once there. And that, for me, was an easy visual of what these compounds can do for the brain in resetting our ability of recreating what habits and choosing scenarios of how you think about things and not falling into the ruts because they've been filled up.
Yeah. Patterns are, I guess, trying to undo patterns. There's a certain amount that's in your there are things you can do. So I would encourage everybody to download a copy of Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books. And that's all about the practice of how to create good habits. But when you're deeply entrenched in something and your mind, like you said, the tires, that's easier said than done, right? Rewiring that. If it was that easy, nobody wants to live with anxiety. Nobody wants to live with depression, with PTSD, whatever. Like it's not like they're not trying. Sometimes the brain just gets trapped like that, and you're just stuck in that rut.
Yeah,
you need something to get
I'm glad
you out
you
of
referenced that book. Great book, and goes through how the cue response, all the things show up in the brain. We could go down all kinds of rabbit holes there.
So good.
You know, you came to St. Pete. I always like to ask the guests, right? Because highlight, if it's your birthday, Jason, we're in St. Pete. Where are we going to eat?
Oh man, let's see. Can't go wrong with Fort 2. If you want a little, fusion side of things, Alelo is way up there. Their branzino, my goodness, best I've ever had. And then for steak, I'm still a Rococo guy. We wind up at Park Shore a lot. I bounce around. I like Seoul for gluten-free fare.
Love Seoul.
And great spot. We could do this part of for quite a while, but yeah, that would be those would be somewhere on the list. Flip a coin and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, St. Pete's got some spots, and they keep showing up, and it's such a remarkable.
Keep growing.
Yeah, we got a lot of fun stuff that's still happening, and we're grateful for you to bring some new technology to this space. How do people find the studio, get set up? What's that look like?
Yeah, real easy. Biohackstudios.com. We're at Central Avenue and 10th Street, so right out there in the Edge District. Can't really miss us. We do one-on-one demonstrations, so just go to the website, schedule a demo. Got an amazing operations manager. She'll walk through what it's like to be a member, and then if they choose to become a member, we do an 3 or 4 onboarding sessions to orientation, basically. Here's how all the equipment works, and from there, it's just you use the app, schedule when you want to, come and go as you please, and we really want people to treat it like their health country club, if you will. Just it's by members, for members, and we got a bunch of things we're looking to roll out as it comes the new year. We've got some new programs that are going to be pretty cool. We're excited about it, and we've got this new relationship we're building on the peptide side of things. We've got a doctor that's going to work with all of our members on optimizing hormones and peptides and the whole fun world of biohacking and optimization.
Amazing. Well, dude, thanks for the time. We kept going, but Megan's kicking us out because I didn't realize how long we've been going, and that's always a good sign. So appreciate you. We'll have to do this again as new things roll out. We can talk all the things health, and I think the St. Pete community, one, they'll appreciate this, and you're a boatload of knowledge. So grateful for that and everything you bring. If for those guests that have made it this far, and I have an idea that we've kept many. What's one word they can comment below so we know that they're still here?
One word. Biohacking.
Biohacking. Comment biohacking below. Go check out Biohacking Studios. Jason, thanks for everything you do. Thanks for serving the community. And bye, everyone. See you in the next one.
Thanks for having me.